Hello there. Welcome in to a Wednesday edition of the show, coming your way live from the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive, because tonight the Avs have a chance to close out the Minnesota Wild and advance to the Western Conference Final. Let me set the scene here at the Brass Tap again on Bass Pro Drive. We got a lot of stuff going on here. You can come by and enter to win tickets to see the Switchbacks take on New Mexico United on Saturday. Dirks Bentley at Ford Amphitheater, which is just down the street from us, on July 2nd. So we have come bearing gifts. And then the main attraction, obviously, is the Brass Tap. Been telling you for weeks now about the $3.50 pints of Coors Light, Coors Banquet, Miller Lite, and Mountain Time. You can get those tonight, $5 domestics as well. A lot of other cool stuff going on at the Brass Tap that I will tell you about as we proceed throughout the broadcast today. In the meantime, happy to have you. Appreciate you listening. Would love for you to come listen in person here at the Brass Tap. But in the meantime, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you're watching the show anywhere you scroll, I certainly do appreciate it. The veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you, and I'd love to get your thoughts, especially when it comes to Game 5. Did I say Game 6 earlier? I think I did. Game 5 tonight. Let's not – Minnesota's got a hole to dig out of. Let's not give them any more life here, shall we? Game 5 tonight. If you want to text in your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Producer Ray is here with me at the Brass Tap. Scorgie is back in the Extra Sports 1300 studios. I certainly appreciate both of them helping me out today, because they both can tell you more than anybody I need a lot of help. So, with all that being said, let's talk about tonight, shall we? The second closeout game of these playoffs for the Colorado Avalanche. And I think, for me, the same rules apply for tonight as they did Game 4 against LA. You know, when I think about what the Avs need to do, what I'm expecting from them if they're going to win tonight, you know, such a big story with the Avs throughout this postseason has been their depth. And we've certainly talked a lot about their depth over the course of these playoffs. In fact, I saw ESPN tweet out something that the Avs have actually set an NHL record for the most different goal scorers in a playoff. And think about that. We're sitting here. There are guys on this Avs roster who have not scored a goal yet. And yet still the Avs have set an NHL record for the most different goal scorers in a playoff. And that's awesome. And that's part of the reason why they're here and why I think they're going to advance, not just past this round, but past the round after that. Their depth. However, there are games where you need to look to the big boy. And a closeout game is one of them. If the Avs can get some depth production tonight, that's icing on the cake. I think tonight is a Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar type game. They have arguably two of the three best players in the world at their disposal. Minnesota is going to be desperate. They're going to be trying to at least give the Avs their best effort of the entire series to avoid being sent on vacation. And that's when you need your best players to be your best player. So it goes beyond Nathan MacKinnon. I think Marty Necas is another one as well. But I'm going to start with 29. And I think right now you have to say he's the front runner for the Conn Smythe as the playoff MVP. He has registered a point in a goal, I think, in every one of these games, certainly a point in every one of these games. He has been, all told, the Avs' best player. And the way he took over game 2, as the days run in together, game 2, I think if you're an Avs fan, that's the Nathan MacKinnon you want to see tonight. You want to see him play a 200-foot game. You want him to be physical, both imposing his will offensively, scoring goals, but also defensively as well, back checking and making it difficult for Minnesota to get out of their own zone. So I think it starts with Nathan MacKinnon, as so many things with the Avs do. It's kind of like there should be some kind of an award given to somebody like that because of the value they bring to their team. Maybe one of these days they'll create something like that. But in the meantime, I think Nathan MacKinnon, a surefire way for the Avs to win tonight. And if we convene tomorrow afternoon at this time and are talking about the Avs going through to the next round, I would be hard-pressed. I think you would be hard-pressed to not say that Nathan MacKinnon was one of the best players. In fact, I'll say this, if Nathan MacKinnon is the best player on the ice tonight, the Avs are winning. I don't think that's a particularly hot take because that's the kind of power he has over a game. He is one of the few players in the NHL that can completely take over a contest. And if he does that tonight for the Avs, they're definitely winning. But there's Cale Makar as well, who there's been an interesting discourse with Cale Makar because people are starting to bring up the Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar debate again. And we knew that was going to be one of the big storylines with the two of them facing off, arguably the two best defensemen in the world. I think that people are failing to understand, and this goes to the depth of the Colorado Avalanche. Quinn Hughes is playing Nikola Jokic-like minutes right now. Like, he is on the ice so much for this Minnesota team, and credit to him to be able to do that. But he's putting in 33, 34, 35 minutes a night, which is an ungodly amount of ice time for anybody. And the fact that Quinn Hughes is productive speaks highly of who he is. But the reason why it looks like Quinn Hughes is outplaying Cale Makar in this series is because he is on the ice like a third more than Cale Makar is. Cale Makar's putting in a lot of minutes, no doubt about that, but nothing compared to Quinn Hughes. So when you're on the ice as much as Hughes has been, your numbers are going to look better. But this is where the depth of the Avalanche comes in. They don't have to play Cale Makar as many minutes as Quinn Hughes. The Wild have no choice. So, and that bodes well, again, as I say, the depth of the Avs bodes well for them moving forward in this tournament. But for a game like tonight, maybe a few extra minutes for Cale Makar might be a good idea from Jared Bednar just to make sure his best defensive pairing is out there. And that's another thing I'll say is that when you say that Quinn Hughes has outplayed Cale Makar, are you only talking about offensively? Because I think you are. Because Quinn Hughes, I saw at the end of Game 4, absolutely get crossed over and left in the dust, or in this case, in the shaved ice by Marty Necas. Like, Quinn Hughes has not been as impactful on both ends of the ice as Cale Makar has been this series. But I think tonight you need to, perhaps the way I'll put it, it would be good to notice Cale Makar a little bit more. Like, you're automatically, when Quinn Hughes is out on the ice, you're looking for Cale Makar. He's not always out there because he doesn't have to be. Tonight, I think Cale Makar needs to be a little bit more noticeable than he has been in previous games. It starts with MacKinnon, then it goes to Makar, and then it goes to Marty Necas. And the metamorphosis of Marty Necas, to me, has been fascinating. Because it is, and I'll ask you this, is he turning into Mikko Rantanen? Like, in a good way. I know Mikko Rantanen's not the most popular guy around these parts anymore. But Marty Necas, the physicality that he has brought to this Avs team, and he's turned him into himself into more of a two-way forward, plays a heavier game than I think he did in Carolina. But he's still been, and we're nitpicking. Like I saw an Athletic article today calling the Avs unstoppable. We are really nitpicking this hockey team right now, and I understand that. And they don't need all of these things to win tonight. But we're just talking best case scenario here. We're talking the most surefire way that the Avs close out this series tonight. I think Marty Necas has got to call his own number, because I think Nathan MacKinnon setting up Marty Necas might be better for the Avs, make the Avs more dangerous than the other way around. Because Marty Necas has dished out a ton of assists. I think he has 8. Hasn't scored a lot of goals. Like to see him get going a little bit. And then there's obviously the constant, which is Gabriel Landeskog. Like, yes, they need Gabriel Landeskog, but Gabriel Landeskog is to the Colorado Avalanche what Aaron Gordon is to the Denver Nuggets. He is the given. He does all of the dirty work so these other guys, McKinnon, Necas, Makar, the guys that Landeskog on the lower lines, Kadri, he does the dirty work so those guys can flourish. And I haven't once looked at Gabriel Landeskog's game and said, I need more from him. He has been a Swiss Army knife. Jared Bednar has moved him up and down the lineup, and he's been productive, or his line, every line he's played on has been productive. But yes, Gabriel Landeskog certainly would be included in the Avs' best players. But I'm talking about the top liners. Maybe Landeskog is on the top line tonight. We'll see. We know Jared Bednar likes to tinker with the lines. But McKinnon, Necas, Makar are the guys I'm looking at, maybe in that order, to have a big impact. And if they all do, the Avs are going to easily get past Minnesota. But it starts with Nathan MacKinnon, and it works this way on down. I just think, as much as we've talked about the fourth line and the deep pairings and the goaltending, which we will get into here shortly, all of that stuff is great, and it will help, as it has helped the Avalanche. But they always say the hardest game to win of a series is the last game. And this could be the last game tonight. So you need one of the best players in the world to lead you through, to have a big-time impact. I'm not saying I don't expect Nathan MacKinnon, but I think that's the most surefire way that the Avs win tonight, is that Nathan MacKinnon is the best player, not only in the ice, but arguably in the world tonight in Game 5. 6 o'clock is the start time for this one. It will be at Ball Arena, which obviously bodes well for the Colorado Avalanche, as difficult as they have been to beat at home. But your home to watch the game tonight should be here at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. Plenty of TVs. You will not go wanting. If you're watching on the live stream, you can see that there is a ginormous TV right behind me. The game will be on that as well. So this is a perfect place to come out, watch the game with your fellow Avs fans, and hopefully be celebrating the Avs punching their ticket to the Western Conference Final. For now, we're just getting going on this Wednesday edition of Drive Time Sports. I teased the goaltending conversation. Let's get into it coming up next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Troy about a little bit. I don't love the Cowboys and Broncos stuff over my shoulder. That's the one thing where I'm like, we got to get that, and the underrepresentation of the Kansas City Chiefs in this place is, we got to do something about that. But other than that, it's an awesome place to watch a game, and in addition to making plans to come out tonight to check out Game 5, don't forget they're doing a new ownership party on Saturday afternoon. That'll be or evening, I suppose, 4 to 6 p.m. They'll be raffling off jerseys and merch. They got happy hour pricing all day long on Saturday, so they just want to celebrate new beginnings here at the Brass Tap. I don't know if you've been out to the Brass Tap before, but this would be a great opportunity for you to do it, meet Troy and the crew here on Saturday, and maybe win some stuff, and also have happy hour pricing, which sounds like a pretty good deal. So that'll be Saturday tonight. Obviously, Game 5 between the Avs and the Minnesota Wild. And I think the big question right now going into this game tonight, although it's not a question anymore, it was a question, I guess, going into today, who's going to start in goal for the Avs? And it appears that it will be Mackenzie Blackwood again, making the start tonight, getting called upon again after he stopped 19 of 21 shots in Game 4. And I was talking with Ray about this earlier today. If you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you know that right up until almost the end of the season, I was of the mind that if the Avs are going to hoist the Stanley Cup, it's going to be with Mackenzie Blackwood in goal. I think he's the guy with the bigger upside than Scott Wedgwood has, and I thought that that's the way it would go. Scott Wedgwood has convinced me, and it's not to say I was ever down on Scott Wedgwood. We're talking about two very capable goaltenders, as Jared Bednar has discussed at length. It's more your preference. And my preference for most of this season has been Mackenzie Blackwood. But the way that Scott Wedgwood has played, it's just made him undeniable. And if we're talking about a sports team as a meritocracy here, Scott Wedgwood has earned the starter's net, and he had it throughout the LA series. There was no reason to entertain the idea of putting Mackenzie Blackwood in. Things got a little bit crazy in Game 1, but Jared Bednar stuck with him, and once again, he was rewarded. So I can't say that I was totally on board with giving Mackenzie Blackwood the start in Game 4. And I don't think that there was necessarily too much from that game that made me say, oh, it's got to be Mackenzie Blackwood moving forward. Like, he didn't win me over the way that Scott Wedgwood has. But I don't think that that's really the calculus here from Jared Bednar. I think what Jared Bednar is looking at, and even made a nod to this, as revealing as Jared Bednar will be about his lineups, as you'll ever find, he talked about fatigue, not just physical fatigue, but mental fatigue with Scott Wedgwood. This is a guy that has not been in the positions he's been in with the Colorado Avalanche, starting big games, elimination games, playoff games. He's just never been in that. And this is part of the reason why Chris McFarland, when he set out to change the goaltending room, it wasn't like, I want to bring in somebody to compete with Alexander Georgiev. I want to clean out that room, and I want to bring in two guys that Jared Bednar can trust, and he does. And part of it, because there just aren't those, we would call them in the NFL bell cow backs. There aren't, franchise-type goaltenders. The Patrick Roys, the Martin Brodeurs, the Dominic Hasekics, they're just in shorter supply, if they even exist. You do need two goalies. It's just how you parcel out their playing time. And I think that's what you're seeing right now with the Colorado Avalanche, is that it's just from a fatigue standpoint, it's time to give Wedgwood a breather. And he goes out. I thought like he got pulled in game 3, obviously, which wasn't great, but I don't put that on him that much. I think the team in front of him let him down. I think Scott Wedgwood still has plenty of confidence given what he has done leading up into game 3. This isn't about lighting a spark. This isn't about sending a message anymore. This is about maintenance. This is about taking care of Scott Wedgwood and making sure that he's ready when called upon again, which I would say here's my prediction. If the Avs win tonight, Scott Wedgwood is in goal for game 1 against either Vegas or Anaheim. So I think this is another chance to give Mackenzie Blackwood some run, build up. Not that he's lacking for confidence, but give him even more, like that Sean Payton line about demonstrated ability is what brings forth confidence. Give Mackenzie Blackwood and the team as well. We can't forget the impact on the team around him. Have the team be even more confident that no matter who's behind them, that they're going to do their job. So give Mackenzie Blackwood in a very difficult game to win, to be sure, but if not a high-stakes game, right? Because I don't think the Avs want to go back to Minnesota, but they got a 3-1 lead, right? So you don't get nervy. You don't start sweating, I don't think, if the Avs lose tonight. So give Mackenzie Blackwood another shot here. Hopefully you close out the series, and then you go back to Wedgwood game 1 against either Vegas or Anaheim. Vegas now up 3-2, by the way, in that series after they won in overtime last night. And then we'll start this conversation all over again. It's just, it's been the most difficult thing to predict with the Colorado Avalanche is where Jared Bednar's mind is at and why he's going to choose the goalie he's choosing. But knowing that Blackwood got the starter's net this morning at morning skate, meaning he will play tonight, barring something unforeseen. I get it. I understand it. Close out this series, reset. You'll have a few days off to get ready for either Vegas or Anaheim. Go back to Wedgwood in game 1. He's been the better of the two goaltenders all season, been the better of the two in the postseason. He deserves the starter's net for game 1, but it will be Mackenzie Blackwood tonight. Trying to follow it up. But again, the guys in front of him. You know, I put a video on Instagram shortly before I went on the air previewing the game tonight. And I want to reiterate, it's the guys in front of Blackwood and Wedgwood that mean so much more. If they're right, it matters far less who's in goal with this team. They are an extension of the team on the ice. They are not independent of them. So if the guys in front of Blackwood handle their business, it could be another relatively light night for Mackenzie Blackwood, and the Avs move on to the Western Conference Final. I'll take your thoughts on the goaltending. Again, Mackenzie Blackwood getting the starter's net in at morning skate, pointing to he's probably going to be in goal again tonight. Other updates, Nathan MacKinnon's face is fine. I mean, it's not fine. It's probably still pretty busted up, but it's not going to impact Nathan MacKinnon. He's a go. Arturi Lehkonen, Sam Malinsky, iffy for tonight. They are both options. They are both possibilities. All the vague words that Jared Bednar likes to use. We'll see if Arturi Lehkonen and Sam Malinsky are on the ice tonight for the Colorado Avalanche. They certainly don't hurt the Avs' chances if they are on the ice. One other thing I want to get to before we shift gears and take a break here. John Hines said something interesting. So you probably know by now that Joel Eriksson Ek and Jonas Brodin, the two guys that the Wild have been hoping were going to make an appearance in this series, they didn't even make the trip out to Colorado. So they're out. And we'll see what happens with Game 6. They're out. But John Hines said this morning there's another player that is a game-time decision. And people are speculating wildly. I think it's on the blue line. My guess, and that's all it is, because I did not see Arturi Lehkonen and Sam Malinsky being out in game 4. Did not have any indication, did not see that they were banged up in game 3 at all. So this is pure speculation on my part. I think it's on the blue line, and I'm going to guess Zach Bogosian. Take it for what it's worth, but I think that's where this injury is. We'll find out shortly before puck drop. And look, we may not even find out at all, because it's a game time decision. The guy that John Hines is talking about, that he won't tell us his name, he may be in the lineup. So we'll scour the Minnesota lines here as we get closer to puck drop and see. But, man, that is a blue line. Brodin already out. They're thinner than the Avs are at that position. If that you're already playing Quinn Hughes 34, 35 minutes a night, if this additional injury is on the back end, that might be the proverbial nail in the coffin when it comes to Minnesota's chances, because the Avs are going to be, I expect them to be coming at Minnesota with everything they've got tonight, with a rowdy crowd at Ball Arena behind them. We'll talk more about Game 5. We'll get your thoughts as well. 719-24-7-1313. Drive Time Sports rolls on from the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. Next on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. upset about that. And that's the first piece of information we get leading into LeBron's free agency is that he was butthurt about not getting the game ball when he passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in a stat that nobody outside of him cares about. This is what makes it more difficult for me to convince you, as much as I want to, of LeBron James being a good fit with the Denver Nuggets. As a basketball player, he's a great fit, and he can help them. He can help the Denver Nuggets. Not, you have to make other moves. Certainly. He's not going to be the cure-all for the Nuggets' ill, but he's a fit. And if he's willing to take less money, as Jake Fisher is insinuating with his reporting today, it makes it an even more desirable marriage between the Nuggets and LeBron James. But if this is the kind of story that comes out as LeBron James is entering free agency, this is when I throw up my hands and I go, you have to help me help you, LeBron. I want to be your cheerleader. I want to be your PR guy. I want to sell you to the Denver Nuggets fan base. But if you're getting butthurt over not being handed a game ball because you pass Kareem in a meaningless stat, I can't help you. I can't help you if you won't help yourself. So I could talk X's and O's and I could talk about fit until I'm blue in the face. But what you will see, and I know you will, and I don't necessarily blame you, you will look at this story and it will completely outweigh everything that I could tell you in terms of the basketball. In terms of how much LeBron has left in the tank, how well he fit with Nikola Jokic, how he certainly would be a guy that you wouldn't question whether he had the want to, like you questioned so many Nuggets players during that Minnesota series. There's a lot that LeBron can help with. It's not going to help everything, but there's a lot he can help with. But when the first story is passive-aggressive LeBron James, it just, all of that goes out the window and you slam your head on the table like Ray did. Like, this is part of the reason why it looks more and more likely that LeBron is just going to go back to LA. One, because he does this and he still ends up going back to the place that he was employed previously. And two, the market shrinks. How could you be a GM, even as much as you admire the career of LeBron James, as much as you marveled at the fact that at 41 years old, he was doing the things he was doing in these playoffs? You just go, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. And it's kind of like the argument I made to Ray a few days ago when it comes to Kevin Durant. If LeBron James is being like this with J.J. Redick and on the L.A. Lakers, how in the world is David Adelman going to handle it? And unfortunately, that's kind of my default question for a lot of things with the Nuggets. How am I supposed to trust David Adelman to be the right guy for this scenario? Because I just don't believe that he is. I'm out. I'm out on David Adelman. I just don't think he's the right guy right now for the Denver Nuggets. How is David Adelman going to handle pouty, passive-aggressive LeBron James? And the answer is he's not going to be able to. Just like he can't handle all that Kevin Durant is. They just don't have a strong enough coach to be able to handle the ego that's coming in. So I will still sit here and say that as a basketball fit, LeBron James makes sense. The Nuggets need to be creative. The Nuggets need to stop fooling themselves. And maybe this is the fan base needs to stop fooling themselves into thinking that this dream trade that you cooked up on ESPN's trade machine is going to happen, because it is not. The Nuggets just don't have anything to offer anybody outside of Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, and even both of them have their downside that would require more being thrown into the mix. So you start to weed out the things that are never going to happen. And we'll call that the Giannis trade tier. Never going to happen. And then you work your way down and you say, okay, this might be something with LeBron. Not with Kevin Durant. That doesn't make any sense. But with LeBron. I wouldn't blame you if you're like, yeah, I don't want LeBron on the Denver Nuggets. With all the problems they're having, I don't want a guy that's going to come in and going to want to be hailed as the conquering hero and is going to get upset when he is not treated as such. And I get it. There's part of it is he has earned a lot of this. He really has. I mean, he's the best player of his generation. Outside of Michael Jordan, he'd be the greatest basketball player of all time. But you're not that at 41 years old anymore. There comes a time where you have to stop the foolishness. And every time LeBron reels me in and I think, okay, he's kind of over this. He understands his spot in the world. Something like this comes out. Not getting the game ball for getting the most wins for an NBA player. Can't happen. All right, we'll shift our gears right back to Game 5 tonight. Minnesota and Colorado come out and join us. Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. More Drive Time Sports coming up after this. Welcome in hour 2 here at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive, the place that you should be watching tonight's game between Colorado and Minnesota. They have been our partners throughout this postseason, and it sure seems like it's going to go on for a little while longer at least. But if you're looking for a place to watch the game tonight, the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive, $3.50 pints of Coors Light, Coors Banquet, Miller Lite, and Mountain Time, and also poker. There's poker tonight going on here at the Brass Tap. So you could watch the game, you could play a little poker, or you could play a little poker while you watch the game. You decide which you want to prioritize, but a lot going on here at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. Come out and see us under new ownership here. Troy's a great dude. Come by, say hi, talk to him about his Bears and his Cubs, and I think he would very much enjoy that. So come on out. We also have some things for you. Dirks Bentley tickets, July 2nd at Ford Amphitheater. You can enter to win those, and you can enter to win a 4-pack of tickets to see the Switchbacks take on New Mexico United on Saturday at Widener Field. So I am not above bribing you. So come out, say hi here at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. So the main event of the evening, 6 o'clock, Extra Sports 1300. It is Game 5 between the Avs and the Wild. Colorado looking to close out the series, as I'm sure you have heard. So I started the show by talking about how if we reconvene tomorrow afternoon and say that the Avs won the game, or say, I'll put it this way, say that Nathan MacKinnon was the best player in Game 5, I would have a hard time seeing a scenario in which the Avs do not win this game. I think closeout games are the games that you need the most from your best players, and there is no better player in this series or on the Colorado Avalanche specifically than Nathan MacKinnon. So that's kind of what I look at from the Avs, is making sure that their best players are better than Quinn Hughes, Matt Boldy, and that group over in Minnesota. But this is kind of a tricky one tonight. It really is, because I don't think a lot of people saw the result of Game 3 coming. So you have to lay out all the scenarios and allow for all the possibilities tonight. And there is certainly a scenario in which Minnesota wins this game tonight. And it is because they are by far the more desperate team, as they were in Game 3. Right? You're down 2-0 in the series. You're coming home. You got the crowd behind you. 3 days of everybody telling you that if you don't win this game, you are absolutely cooked and you are done. The Wild, to their credit, took it to heart. The Avs did not really play with the same level of desperation. And that was a big reason why Minnesota was able to win Game 3. Tonight's kind of similar. You're hearing a lot of the right things coming from the Colorado Avalanche, that they got to replicate it. They got to keep drawing from what happened in Game 3. And here's what I will say in their favor. When the Avs had their performance or lack thereof in Game 3, they were 6-0. Right? They did a lot of winning going up into that game. It wasn't just the 2 games against Minnesota. It was 4 against LA. Game 3 is fresher in the minds of the Avalanche, I think, going into this game tonight. Game 3, you can remember it. I can remember it. Trust me, the Avs remember it. And I think there's a higher potential for the Avs to be able to answer the bell tonight. And while they can't match the desperation level of Minnesota, because there's no substitute for having your season on the line. The season's not on the line for the Avs. They can't match the desperation of Minnesota. But if they have a high enough level of it, with Nathan MacKinnon being the best player on the ice, with the home crowd advantage. And here's another thing, too, because we saw this in Game 4. The only blemish I really saw in Game 4 for the Colorado Avalanche was the Josh Manson penalty. It was not necessary. It was detrimental to the Colorado Avalanche. That's one thing tonight as well. The Avs got to stay out of the penalty box as much as they can, and they certainly need to stay out of the penalty box when they can avoid it. And what happened with Josh Manson, I get it. Mike McCarron, nobody likes him. People are photoshopping pacifiers on the guy's face. Like, I get it. He to bring up the most juvenile thing I can, he started it. Like, I get that, all of that. If you're the Avs, you got bigger fish to fry than Minnesota. You have your eyes set on Lord Stanley's Cup. You cannot get in the weeds. And I expect Minnesota to do more of this tonight. I expect Minnesota to try and bait the Avalanche into committing some penalties. The Minnesota Wild, even in Game 3, did you notice that the only goals that Minnesota scored were on special teams? They did not beat the Avs really 5-on-5. They looked the better team, but the scoreboard doesn't say they beat them 5-on-5. They beat them on the power play. They beat them 4-on-4. That is going to be part of Minnesota's game plan tonight, is to try and bait the Avs to go into the penalty box and try to execute and get goals that way. The Avs cannot pay it any mind. They got to rise above it. And look, it's easier said than done, and it's certainly easier from some schmuck like me to say it, as opposed to a guy on the Avalanche that's being baited and hit with the stick of an opposing player and all this kind of stuff. But it's what's required. And Jared Bednar said this during the LA series, because there was some of this going on during the LA series. He said that, look, there is a line, and the Avs are aware of where that line is. If somebody crosses it, you have to answer. You can't let Minnesota get away with everything. But the little shots at the end of a sequence where Mackenzie Blackwood, who will start tonight, freezes the puck, you got to try to let that stuff go. You can't let that escalate. Do your pushing and shoving. The referees will allow that. Don't get caught up and get put in the penalty box, because that's what Minnesota absolutely wants. So the Avs got to keep their wits about them and not get baited into anything silly, like I think Mike McCarron was partially trying to do with Josh Manson. I do think that was intentional. Targeting Josh Manson, doing that to Josh Manson, I think that was part of not the overall game plan for the Minnesota Wild, but I think it was in Mike McCarron's head that, hey, I can get this guy, a little bit fired up. He's already fired up coming into the game because he hasn't played for a few weeks. He's got a reputation of a physical player, not a dirty player, but I'm going to try and bait him. I'm going to tackle him. I'm going to stay on top of him, and I'm going to try and get him to do something stupid, and Josh Manson did. That has to be held up as an example of what the Avs cannot do tonight. Don't get baited into it. Make Minnesota beat you 5-on-5, or make Minnesota be the ones to go to the penalty box. I'm not saying bait Minnesota into committing penalties, but I think they're naturally going to commit some. If you're playing your game and Nathan McKinnon's flying and Cale Makar's doing his thing, they're going to take penalties. And the power play for the Avs has been good in this series. They can't get caught up in that stuff. But they also, and it's a weird balance, right? Because they can't get caught up in the foolishness, but they also have to play emotionally. They have to raise their emotional level as high as they can to try and match the desperation of Minnesota. But even if they don't reach that level, everything else will fill in the gap here, and the Avs will be able to beat Minnesota tonight. Now, not that anybody wants to entertain this, except Ray, who told me to talk about this, so blame him. Ray, being the doomer that he is, the Chicken Little, He's like, well, what if the Avs don't win tonight? And I said, how dare you? And I said, but I will talk about that. If the Avs lose this game, I don't think all is lost. This team just showed that they could go into Minnesota's barn and they could get a win. And not only can they get a win, they can dominate as they did in game 4. It's not the ideal scenario, certainly, to have to go back to Minnesota. But this is what getting a 3-1 lead grants you. We talked about over the last couple of weeks what being the President's Trophy winner gets you, the fun and prizes that it gets you. Well, same thing here. You got a 3-1 lead. Not that you just let this one go without putting up a fight. That's not what I'm saying. But you built up a cushion in this series that even if you lose tonight, all hope shouldn't be lost. You should not be panicking. The Avalanche can recover. They can get ready for game 6 on Friday night in Minnesota, a barn they've already won in. I think that the Avs can certainly, how do I put this? In terms of the scope of the series and how I view these two teams, the Avalanche can afford to lose tonight. But that doesn't mean they should. And it doesn't mean I think they will. Because the Avalanche, this was like game 4 against LA. Right? They were getting ready to sweep, which is a very difficult thing to do, to sweep any team. It's almost adding insult to injury almost. Not only did we bounce you from these playoffs, but we did it in the minimum games that required. The Avs brought that business-like mentality. The idea that we got bigger things to play for. We gotta wrap this up because we got to get on to the Western Conference Final, and we got to get even a step further than that. We're playing for a cup. We're not going to mess around here and go. We don't want to fly back to Minnesota. Have you ever been there? Who wants to fly back to there voluntarily? The Avs don't want to go back to Minnesota. But if Minnesota plays the way, if this is a repeat of game 3, then this series will go back to Minnesota. But you can feel decent if you're an Avs fan that, look, the series is still 3-2. And the Avs can certainly recover as they bounce back after game 3 and game 4. They could bounce back after a potential lackluster performance tonight. But at home, with Ball Arena going to be as crazy as it's going to be tonight, with game 3 still fresh in the collective mind of the Avalanche players, I just don't see it. I don't see a repeat of game 3 tonight. Is that alone enough to win? No. Other things have to go right, but I don't expect to see the same Avs team tonight in Ball Arena that I saw in game 3 in St. Paul, Minnesota. Take your thoughts and your predictions for tonight's game 5, 719-247-1313, or direct communication. If you're going to come out and watch the game, you can give me your opinions right here at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. More Drive Time Sports coming up next. Welcome back to the Brass Tap, the site of today's show, and also what should be your site for watching tonight's Game 5 between the Avs and the Wild. Puck drop is at 6 o'clock. Come on out, and want to put another thing here at the Brass Tap on your calendar. It will be their new ownership celebration on Saturday. Happy hour pricing all day long. They're going to be giving away sports paraphernalia, jerseys and flags and really cool stuff between 4 and 6 on Saturday. But just a way that Troy and the folks here at the Brass Tap are wanting to welcome the community in, say, look at what we're doing with the Brass Tap and make that connection. So make sure you also get that on your calendar as well for Saturday. We'll get back into the hockey. Don't worry. But something happened yesterday during the Rockies and the Pirates game that I found interesting, and I want to get your take on this. So, first of all, my prediction was not very close to correct. I just jokingly said with the matchup being as lopsided as it was, Rockies going against Paul Skeens, Michael Lorenzen in his nearly 7 ERA going against the Pirates, and watch what would happen as Lorenzen is nails and Paul Skeens blows up. I believe Paul Skeens' last start at Coors Field was not great, as memory serves, the former Air Force Falcon. I was just joking, because obviously Paul Skeens is the best pitcher on planet Earth, and the Rockies are not the best lineup on planet Earth, to say the very least. So, but I will say credit to Michael Lorenzen. That dude came in with almost 7 ERA, and what did he give up? 3 runs? So good on him. But Paul Skeens started off yesterday's game in a way that you would probably expect if I just asked you, how do you think the first 2 innings against Paul Skeens went for the Colorado Rockies? You would probably say at least one of the things that would pop into your head was, I bet he strikes out the first 6 hitters he faces. And if you were to say that, you would be correct. The first 6 hitters that faced Paul Skeens in yesterday's game struck out. Like Pedro Martinez in the All-Star game I think that was at Fenway that he did that. Now, with all due respect to Paul Skeens, and striking out 6 major league hitters in a row is not an easy thing to do. He's not facing the National League All-Stars like Pedro Martinez was back in the day. But still, first 6 Rockies come to the plate in Pittsburgh. Paul Skeens mows them all down. First batter of the next inning lays down a bunt. Paul Skeens picks it up, throws it over to the first, no problem. And Paul Skeens looked to be a little bit, I think he was perturbed. Now, after the game, he kind of shrugged the whole thing off. He's like, I'm sarcastic. What people picked up, and you don't have to be a good lip reader to see that Paul Skeens basically mocked the bunt by the Rockies and said, nice bunt. He was being sarcastic. But he did say it at the Rockies player that bunted it. To be fair, like Paul Skeens tried to deny that. I don't talk to opponents. Oh, you were talking to him. You were talking at him at the very least. But I understand why Paul Skeens would be frustrated. Okay, you have had this amazing start to the game. You have faced 6 hitters. You have struck every single one of them out. And the 7th guy that you face lays down a bunt in the 3rd inning. Are you kidding me? Now, I don't want to get into the unwritten rules of baseball and all of that stuff because I'm not a fan of the unwritten rules. But The Rockies are well within their right to do this. But it is quite weak. And it's a little early in the game to be desperate. That's how I looked at that. When I think it was Edouard Julien who laid down the bunt. When he laid that bunt down, I'm like, that's a little desperate for the third inning of a scoreless game, or I think Pittsburgh was up 1-0. Even for the Rockies, that's a little desperate. And I know the Rockies bunt it more than most MLB teams. They're all about chaos, getting guys on base. I'm telling you, in that moment, there's no need to bunt. Come on now. What are we doing? If you're the Rockies, can you at least try to swing away on Paul Skeens the first time through the lineup? And then if we fast forward to inning number 4, Paul Skeens has struck out the last 9 guys, then I think the Rockies would be well within their right to go, oh my God, we cannot touch this guy. We're going to start laying down some bunts. But that is different than the unwritten rules. And the one that always sticks out in my mind is Curt Schilling in San Diego years and years ago. Is either a perfect game or a no-hitter going. And Ben Davis, the catcher for the Padres, this must have been late in the game, 7th, 8th, maybe even the 9th inning, lays down a bunt. And I remember the conversation I had with my friends after that. I don't care that Ben Davis laid down a bunt. I really don't. I understand why Curt Schilling is upset about it. That's fine. But the jury of the unwritten rules of baseball, give me a break. The Padres played Curt Schilling straight up for the vast majority of that game, and they couldn't get anything on him. And they were going to try and catch everybody by surprise. I'm not about the unwritten rules of baseball, but that was a desperate measure from a desperate team. The Rockies were 2 innings into this game. To me, it's too early to pull the ripcord. And also, can you have more of an indictment of the team than the 7th guy to come to the plate in the game is laying down a desperation bunt just so they could get some kind of contact on a pitch thrown by Paul Skeens? I think there's a difference. I think there's a line here. You could tell me if I'm wrong, 719-247-1313. This is not about an unwritten rule. This is about you're already desperate in the 3rd inning that we can't hit Paul Skeens any other way. Like, that's the way I viewed it. But there's certainly no unwritten rule for a guy that strikes out 6 in a row. You're not allowed to bunt. You're allowed to bunt. I'm acknowledging that the Rockies have the freedom, because this is America after all, the freedom to lay a bunt down if they so choose. You have that option. I just think it makes you look bad. The guy has struck out 6 hitters in a row. Can you at least stand in there with the bottom of your lineup? I know they're the bottom of your lineup for a reason, but can you just stand in there and take a couple more hacks? And then if we get to inning number 4 and Paul Skeens has struck out all 9 hitters he's faced, then okay, now we have a conversation of we can't hit this guy. Let's figure out some other thing. So now I think Paul Skeens was mildly perturbed by it. I think he actually had the best reaction, though. Like, bro. I don't know if Paul Skeens says bro. He did go to the school across the highway from where I'm sitting. I don't know that he says bro. But, bro, you're going to try and lay down a bunt, and not even a good one, because here's the other thing, and the Pirates broadcast did a great job of pointing this out. If you're going to bunt the ball to try and get on base, You don't bunt the ball where Paul Skeens is falling off the mound from. The bunt was to the first base side of the mound where Paul Skeens in his natural follow through is going to fall off to. He has a head start to go get that ball. Like, if you're going to do this, can you put it down the third baseline? This is why, part of the reason why people will say analytics. Part of the reason why nobody bunted in Major League Baseball for years is because nobody could. Legitimately, because you saw when the shift was allowed and teams would shift way over, nobody, it was the most obvious thing. Just lay a bunt down. The whole first or third base line is wide open. Just lay the bunt down. Just give it a little tap, 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 tap-a-roo. And there would be no chance anybody could get to it. Nobody did. Was it pride? Was it analytics? Maybe a little bit of those. It also was because I just don't think many guys can actually lay down the bunt. But Edouard Julien can. I've seen him do it. Can you not push it down the third baseline? That's going to be your attempt. You're going to draw the ire of the Pittsburgh Pirates fans, and they booed the Rockies mercilessly after that. They were not pleased. They wanted to see more strikeouts. And they would, in fact, see 4 more strikeouts from Paul Skeens in that game. But if you're doing this to legitimately try to get on base, can you at least execute it? Can you at least execute the bunt? Because the counter argument would have been much stronger. Right? If the Rockies lay down a great bunt down the third base line that Paul Skeens can't get to and they get on base, they could argue, like the tush push, hey, if you don't like it, stop it. Right? You want to legislate out of the game? You want to keep us from doing this? Pick up the ball and throw it across the diamond and get us out. But the Rockies didn't have that because it was a poorly executed bunt that went exactly where Paul Skeens' momentum was carrying him, and he was able to casually pick it up and throw the guy out at first. So you have a couple of things here. The first thing is it really necessary? Do you really have to be that desperate to be bunting the 7th batter of the game because you struck out the previous 6 times? I don't think so. But at least if you're going to do it, can you execute it well so you can at least thumb your nose at the Pirates and the haters and say, you know what? If you don't want us to do it, stop it. But it was I know things are changing at 20th and Blake. I know things are changing for the better. I truly believe that. The Rockies are still not a good baseball team. They don't play baseball well. They play baseball in an entertaining fashion sometimes. They don't play it well. And yesterday was another example of that. But Paul Skeens ended up okay because not only did he end up throwing 8 scoreless innings, giving up just 2 hits and striking out 10, he then got in what I could imagine would be a very expensive, nice vehicle and drove home to have Livy Dunn greet him when he arrived home. I don't feel bad for Paul Skeens, but that was an interesting moment, certainly in yesterday's game. By the way, game 2 of the series, not as compelling a pitching matchup, but game 2 of the series actually going to be starting up here in less than 10 minutes from Pittsburgh. And that would be a nice thing to, bridge the gap between now and the Avalanche game tonight. Watch a little Rockies Pirates coming up in a few minutes. We'll take a break and come back with a couple of your texts. Entertaining as always. You are on the text line. We'll get to those next. Back live at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. If you're looking for a place to watch tonight's Game 5 between the Avs and the Wild, I highly recommend this fine establishment. In fact, Ray and I are going to be looking over the menu. It's about eating time. Ray nods in agreement. Let's get to your text at 719-247-1313. This coming in from Dave regarding the goaltending situation with the Avs. So Mackenzie Blackwood looks like he's going to be the starter. And I said that I expect, if everything goes the Avs' way, they win tonight, I expect Scott Wedgwood to be back in goal for Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Dave has a different take on it. Says it should be Blackwood's job until he looks uncomfortable in net. Now, and I think what Dave is speaking to is some of the assessment from Jared Bednar on the way that Wedgwood played in Game 3, the game that he ultimately got pulled from, right, which started all of this. I think Jared Bednar did not blame Scott Wedgwood for the goals that were scored necessarily. But he looked at Scott Wedgwood. I think he called him overly aggressive. I believe was at least aggressive, if not overly, in net. I think he saw Scott Wedgwood doing a bit too much, maybe not letting the game come to him. And maybe that was part of the reason to say, hey, I think we, in his own mind saying, let's go to Mackenzie Blackwood. So I think Dave's following the same logic. Scott Wedgwood maybe looked a little not himself in Game 3. And that's what led to him getting pulled, and now Mackenzie Blackwood being in goal. Let's do the same thing. And I see that, and I don't think there's necessarily a wrong way to go about this. I mean, that's the great thing with the Avs goaltending right now. I mean, really, what are we talking about? We're talking about a guy that should have been a Vezina Trophy finalist, that has been tremendous all season long, was tremendous throughout the LA Kings series, has been good more often than not in the Minnesota series, in Scott Wedgwood. And then we have Mackenzie Blackwood, who was good this season, certainly, and I don't think there was anything bad about Mackenzie Blackwood's game in Game 4. I really don't. I don't think he was asked to do as much as Scott Wedgwood has been asked in previous games. But he played the game he was supposed to play, made the stops he was supposed to stop, and so on and so forth. So we're really talking about either way the Avs being good, while also acknowledging there is so many other things with the Colorado Avalanche that go before goaltending. We like talking about goaltending. We're not saying it's not impactful. But on the list of things that impact the Colorado Avalanche winning and losing, goaltending's not at the top of the list. And you've seen good things from both. So we're really splitting hairs here on what's the best way to go about it. But I see what you're saying, Dave. I will push back and say, what about Game 1 with Minnesota? What about that? Because, again, I don't think that the guys in front of Scott Wedgwood played well enough in Game 1. But also, Scott Wedgwood was not as good as he has been in other series. I remember saying at the time, if you want to give Mackenzie Blackwood a shot, give him a shot in Game 2. I kind of using the same logic that you're using, Dave. And I said, okay, Scott Wedgwood doesn't quite look like he did in the LA series. In that Game 1 against Minnesota. In comes Mackenzie Blackwood, Game 2. Be a good spot for him. What did Jared Bednar do? Went right back to Scott Wedgwood. So I think you have good logic here. I don't know that's what Jared Bednar is necessarily doing, because you could argue that Scott Wedgwood was a tad shaky in game 1 of Minnesota, and he was right back in goal for game 2. I think Wedgwood is the guy. I think every pivotal game, every, if a game 7 were to happen between now and the Stanley Cup final, I think Scott Wedgwood right now is that guy. I don't think this is about, let's go Scott Wedgwood until he doesn't look as great, and then we'll go Blackwood until he doesn't look as great and go back. I don't think that's what Jared Bednar is thinking. I don't think that's a bad way to go about it. I just don't think that's where Jared Bednar's head's at. This morning he mentioned fatigue, the mental and physical fatigue that comes along with playing in the Stanley Cup playoff. I think that's why, in addition to the way that Blackwood played, I think that's why he's getting the net again. We'll see. If he play, it'll be fascinating, Dave, because you have your way. If Mackenzie Blackwood looks good tonight, Avs win, close out the series, we will find out between you and I who's right here. Whether it'll be Blackwood staying in net or whether it'll be back to Wedgwood for game 1 against either Vegas or Anaheim. But it's been the most difficult thing to figure out with the Avalanches, how Jared Bednar is handling this goaltending tandem. This one coming in from the 719, talking earlier about LeBron James being a little bit perturbed, according to Dave McMenamin, that he wasn't given a game ball because he passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the all-time wins list for a player that up until just now, I didn't know that anybody cared how many wins are affixed to one particular player, but clearly LeBron does. It is weakening my compelling case to you, Nuggets Nation, that LeBron would be a fit with the Nuggets. And to with this text coming in, if the Nuggets bring in LeBron James, I will cancel my season tickets. Longevity doesn't necessarily make you a good player. He disrupts the offense and thinks he's younger than he is. I would disagree with the disrupts the offense. I think he would fit in very well with the offense. I really do. Longevity, true, doesn't necessarily make you a good player. LeBron James is still one of the, what would you say, Ray, 20 most impactful players in the NBA right now? 20, 15? Could I interest you in 15 for LeBron James? Yes. He's still good. And the longevity is what makes you marvel at what LeBron James is doing. It doesn't mean he's a good player. What he does on the court means he's a good player. Still one of the top, I'll say 15, conservatively 20 best players in the NBA. How many more players on that list? Go through it in your head. Do the Denver Nuggets have a realistic shot of getting on their roster? They have Jokic. They have one already, so good on them. There's no way they meet the asking price of Milwaukee on Giannis. Wemby's not going anywhere. Anthony Edwards isn't going anywhere. Luka's not going anywhere. There aren't many guys on that list that are attainable for the Denver Nuggets. LeBron is one of them. But what I like most is your last point. He thinks he's younger than he is. What this story shows is that LeBron James, while there was a time where he could flex his muscle and his power over an organization, and you may not like it, but if you were in LeBron's position, you would do the same thing. Okay, and I'm talking about, the passive-aggressive demand, kind of the pseudo demands to bring in this player, that player. Not really talking about Bronny. That's a unique case. But to your point, I thought this season made him understand. As great of a player as you are, you are 41 years old. You are not the number one option on this team anymore. You're not the number two option on this team anymore. You're not the first or second priority. And I thought he understood it. His play on the court, I made a leap that I shouldn't have. Because I thought I saw more maturity from LeBron James on the court. And I thought, you know what? He understands it because he was able to take a back seat to Luka. Right? Came off the bench, did a lot of other things. I'm like, okay, LeBron understands. I don't know that this story says he understands. And now he's going to be possibly, I should say, I don't want to say potentially, possibly comes into a different team than the LA Lakers. How's he going to expect to be treated? Like a conquering hero. Which he's not at this point in his career. Love to have him from a basketball standpoint. I vehemently disagree with your take when it comes to his fit with the Denver Nuggets. I think he's a great basketball fit. But the other stuff, I can't argue. Can't argue with that at all. And what's weird is that I'm not saying that Dave McMenamin has to be, writing fluff pieces for LeBron James, but also he has in the past. So I'm very surprised that this is coming from Dave McMenamin's reporting, because he's been usually very pro LeBron, and this is a very anti-LeBron report. But maybe McMenamin's tied to the Lakers as well as anybody is in media. Maybe he sees the writing on the wall that LeBron is gone, so maybe felt like it wouldn't be a big deal. Might be a little awkward if LeBron is back with the LA Lakers. We'll find out. 719-247-1313. You could also drop a comment on our live stream. Love this. Props to you, Jason, for dropping in on the stream. Says the bunt by the Rockies in a no-hitter when they did is perfectly fine in my mind. If it was the 8th inning or later, then I would think it's dirty. That's interesting. I actually never think that it's dirty. And I think it's even less dirty as the game goes on because you're trying to win a baseball game here. You haven't been able to get on base for 8 innings. You just want to concede. You just want to, throw up your hands and say, go ahead and no-hit us. So you and I are in agreement, Jason. I have no problem, with, trying to, I don't have a huge problem, I should say, with them bunting. I feel like it's a little bit desperate. I don't understand why they did it. And the main thing is they should execute better. But I don't have a problem with teams bunting in the 8th inning. You haven't been able to get anything going at any point. You might as well try this. But good comment there, Jason, on the our live stream watching on Facebook. 719-247-1313. Want to bring this up while I am here. Guys, I want to talk to you for a second. If you that feeling when something's just, off. Maybe you're tired all the time, not sleeping well, or you're just not feeling like yourself. For a lot of guys, that can come down to low testosterone. That's where Low T Center comes in. They're the original TRT clinic, and they've helped guys all across the country, especially here in the Springs, get their energy, focus, and drive back. And here's the difference between them and some other clinics. They only use high-quality pharmaceutical-grade testosterone, no compounded mystery stuff. You know exactly what you're getting. Plus, their providers all board certified. They don't just look at your numbers. They actually get to know you, your goals, your lifestyle, everything. And if you're curious about peptides, right, recovery, weight loss, better sleep, they are in that as well for you. It all gets started with the free t-test. It's quick and easy, and then you know where you need to go from there. You can head to lowtcenter.com. That's lowtcenter.com, and book your TRT appointment today. 719-247-1313. Keep your thoughts and predictions for tonight's Game 5 rolling. We will return and talk more about tonight's Game 5 between the Avs and the Wild. Drive Time Sports live from the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. Come out, say hi. You're listening to 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome in Drive Time Sports live from the Brass Tap tonight on Bass Pro Drive, the place that you need to be to watch tonight's game 5 between the Avs and the Wild. More on that game coming up momentarily. In the meantime, appreciate you listening to the show, whether it's on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or whether you're watching the show anywhere you scroll. I certainly do appreciate it. If you'd like to reach out to the program, 719-247-1313 is the number. Now, perhaps these 3 stories that are driving the show could pique your interest and get those opinions flowing. Scorgy producing today back at the studio. Would you mind hitting the very next thing in the log for me? Or we won't. That's okay. Because the 3 stories that are driving the show are all about one thing. They are about the Avs and the Wild tonight. Here are the 3 storylines that I'm looking for this evening. First and foremost, how the Avs win this game. I'll tell you the most surefire way that the Avs win this game. If Nathan MacKinnon is the best player on the ice, the Avs are going to close out Minnesota tonight. These are the kind of games, these closeout games, where you need your best players to be your best players. That is a desperate Minnesota team that the Avalanche are going to be facing. And maybe the Avalanche can't compensate for it, right? The Avs can't compensate. Or they can't be as desperate as Minnesota. It's not possible. But they can make up for it. They can compensate for it with their skill, with the fact that they have the best player in this series. And going from there, if Cale Makar could be one of the best players on the ice, and if Marty Necas and Gabriel Landeskog, then it bodes even better. But to me, if we're sitting here tomorrow and saying that Nathan MacKinnon was the best player on the ice in Game 5, I would guarantee you that the Colorado Avalanche win. Now, as far as Nathan MacKinnon goes, his face is going to be okay, says Jared Bednar. Actually, he had kind of I thought the line was sweet from Jared Bednar. He said that he's doing okay, but basically he said his face is far away from his legs and his heart. Basically meaning Nathan MacKinnon, as long as his legs work and as long as it's not impacting his desire to win, his heart, he'll be good. Nathan MacKinnon might look a little busted up tonight, but he is no after effects from taking that puck to the face the other night. He will be ready to go, and if he's the best player on the ice tonight, the Avalanche will win. Second storyline, goaltending. It will be Mackenzie Blackwood, or we would expect it to be Mackenzie Blackwood in goal tonight for the Avs. Going to get another nod after being in goal for Game 4. I have to say that I'm mildly surprised that Jared Bednar's not going back to Scott Wedgwood, but when I heard Jared Bednar speak this morning, I understood it. This is not about Scott Wedgwood has lost his job. This is not necessarily about Mackenzie Blackwood is outplaying Scott Wedgwood. This is about making sure Scott Wedgwood is right. And it was kind of the same thing with Mackenzie Blackwood, if you think about it. Like, Blackwood wasn't playing, but Jared Bednar was trying to make sure that Blackwood was healthy and fit and mentally fit and ready to go. Scott Wedgwood has been under a lot of stress, right? This is his first extended playoff stay. He's playing in the biggest games he's ever played in his life. He could use another day in the mind of Jared Bednar. And if it gives Mackenzie Blackwood more confidence, the Avs more confidence in him, then win, win, win all around. So I think this is more about giving Wedgwood another night, trying to close this thing out with Blackwood. I would expect Scott Wedgwood to be in goal at the latest game one of their Western Conference final against either Vegas or Anaheim if they make it there. That's the latest I expect him to be in goal. But he will not be tonight. Mackenzie Blackwood gets the start tonight, only faced 21 shots in Game 4. If the Avs play the way they did in Game 4 in front of him, Mackenzie Blackwood will do just fine, and the Avs will win Game 5. Our third storyline tonight is, of course, health, because isn't it always? Sam Malinsky, Arturi Lehkonen, the surprise scratches for Game 4. Not a certainty to play tonight. According to Jared Bednar, they are possibilities, and only that. It certainly helps the Avs to have those two guys, but this is what, it's kind of like the Mackenzie Blackwood thing. This is what having a 3-1 lead affords you. It's not all hands on deck for the Colorado Avalanche. It doesn't have to be. You got a 3-1 series lead. If Malinsky and Arturi Lehkonen are not as close to 100% as anybody gets these days in hockey, you don't need to play them. Desperation level in terms of rushing guys back and forcing them to play, you don't have to do that right now. My guess, and it's only this because Jared Bednar is very sneaky and does not like to give away things, I don't think we see Sam Malinsky or Arturi Lehkonen tonight. Could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm feeling. And you could certainly err on with an abundance of caution here if you're the Colorado Avalanche. But the team that is more interesting when it comes to injuries is not Colorado, it's Minnesota. So Joel Eriksson Ek and Jonas Brodin, the two guys that Minnesota has been desperately hoping would make their way back to play in this series. They did not even make the trip from Minnesota to Colorado, which does not bode well for them. But then on top of it, John Hines this morning, the head coach of the Minnesota Wild, said there was another player, a mystery player, mystery to you and I, not to him, that may not play tonight. That is a game time decision whether he will play. Now, I can wildly speculate, and I will do so right now. I'm going to say it's on the blue line. I'm going to say it's another defenseman that John Hines is talking about. We may know, we may not know. We'll know after the game. Hines will be asked, and he'll be more forthcoming with it. But that's a unit that can't suffer any more losses. They're already playing Quinn Hughes 35 minutes a night. They're already have less depth at that position than the Avs do. That's the last place that Minnesota can afford to sustain another injury. But that's what I will guess, and we'll find out. This guy may be in the lineup, may not be an issue at all. So Minnesota certainly more banged up than the Avs are right now, and they may be even more so tonight in this Game 5. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. More importantly, your predictions for tonight. Do the Avs get it done? I don't know if I gave you an official prediction. I will now. I think the Avs win tonight. I think they close it out at home, something they have not done since 2008. Close out a playoff series at home. That's wild. Not Minnesota wild, but wild. The Avs, it would be a great night to do that. With the emotion running as high as it is right now in this series with Mike McCarron and how long it's been, be a good night for the Avs to close out a series on home ice for the first time since 2008. I do think they will do it tonight. I think they get the job done, close out Minnesota, and we will be talking tomorrow about who would you rather play, Vegas or Anaheim. Although we don't have to wait to start that conversation. We could do it right now if you'd like. 719-24/7 1313. Vegas taking a 3-2 series lead over Anaheim. I think it's going to be Vegas. How would you feel about that? Or are we too locked into Minnesota? Can we not look ahead? We don't want to look ahead. I won't look ahead. But Vegas last night taking a 3-2 series lead over the Anaheim Ducks. But more importantly, your thoughts and predictions for Game 5 tonight. 719-24/7 1313. Coming up next, one superstar that is just, his team can't figure it out around him. I'll tell you who that is coming up next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Oh, don't mind me. Just enjoying some of the fare here at the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. If you haven't been out here or haven't been out here in a while, you should definitely come by because you get to meet Troy, the new owner, who's doing a lot of really cool stuff here at the Brass Tap and has made it a haven for people who would like to watch sports. And if you'd like to watch the Avs and Wild tonight, don't worry, they got you covered for that. Also, there are things that I am bribing you with. Dirks Bentley tickets, July 2nd at Ford Amphitheater, and also the Switchbacks and New Mexico United Saturday at Widener Field. You can win tickets, 4 tickets for that, 2 tickets for Dirks Bentley. You come by, sign up to enter. We'll draw right before we're done here, just before 6 o'clock, which coincidentally is the time that Altitude's coverage of Game 5 will begin on Extra Sports 1300. So synergy, I think, is what that is called. Connor McDavid is trending in LeBron James's direction. And what I mean by that is, you remember LeBron James before he went to Miami, right? Cleveland Cavaliers, led them to a finals, took one of the worst teams that I think has ever played in the finals outside of him to the NBA finals. And I think he played for how many different coaches? LeBron played for a lot of different coaches. Not a lot of continuity going on there. And eventually he woke up one day and said, I am ready to make the worst decision of my career. I am ready to become a pariah in my sport because I am so desperate to win and I am so tired of this garbage that's going on with my organization. And he ended up going to Miami and becoming a pariah and becoming one of the most hated NBA players. And in many ways, he sold his soul for his championship. But what started it all was because they could never in Cleveland find the right combination to make it work. And LeBron one day threw up his hands and said, I'm out of here and I'm going to go play with my buddies down in Miami. I feel like Connor McDavid is about to make the same decision. Now, LeBron, I think, can live with it. I'm not saying that this is, ruined LeBron James's legacy. I don't, it did at the time, but I think that I think plenty of people still feel like he's their GOAT and all that kind of stuff. Connor McDavid, what the Edmonton Oilers are doing is going to drive Connor McDavid to do something like that. Connor McDavid is now reportedly going to be onto his 6th head coach in Edmonton. Chris Knobloch looks like he's on the way out. 6 head coaches for who most people believe is the best player in the world. Kind of like LeBron was for a good stretch there in Cleveland. Now, here's the tricky part. LeBron James had every right to do what he did and leave Cleveland via free agency. The problem was he made a very rash and dumb decision to go to a place that it was going to make him a villain. There is a middle ground here where if Connor McDavid does not re-up again with Edmonton and he says, I'm out of here, he could just go simply to a good organization with a chance to win a cup. He doesn't have to join up with Nathan. Like, let's call it what it is. If Connor McDavid joins the Colorado Avalanche, the Avalanche become the Miami Heat. Right? But Connor McDavid could just go to a better organization and nobody would blame him. Okay? But Connor McDavid has to be very careful here. And he could have done this already and chose not to. That's kind of on him. Did you think that the Edmonton Oilers were going to figure out with Tristan Jarry in goal, with their best defenseman being an absolute sieve defensively in Evan Bouchard? I'm all for loyalty, but look, Connor McDavid is hardly a victim here. Or at least he could have gotten out earlier. So it's a balance here when it comes to Connor McDavid in his future. I don't think anyone would blame him for leaving Edmonton, but where he lands would be very important. And who came with him would be very important. So I would just say it's just interesting to me how Connor McDavid is going down the same path of LeBron James. He's trying it, and he's trying it, and he's trying it, and it's just not working. Is he going to end up doing the thing that LeBron did and said, you know what, I will go to the very best place that gives me a chance to win a Stanley Cup, the very best, because I want as many other star players with me as I could get? That would be a hit for Connor McDavid's reputation. You got to thread the needle here when you're making these free agency decisions. Take it from LeBron. Take it from Kevin Durant. We want you to go and give yourself a chance to win, Connor McDavid. And I say we as a sporting public. We want you to go and have a chance to win. And we see them rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic with, the coaching changes and the goalie changes this year. And we say we feel for you. But you better just go to, where would be a good place? Can't go to Vegas. Nobody likes Vegas. You could go to Anaheim. How about that? Anaheim. You could go to Anaheim. Young and up-and-coming team. Well coached by Joe Quenneville. You want to sign in free agency and go to the Anaheim Ducks. Yeah, maybe Canada will hate you, but North America is bigger than Canada. We will embrace you down here in the United States. You go to Anaheim, you're okay. Vegas, not okay. Colorado, not okay. I don't even know if the Avs could afford it. Although at the time I didn't know that the Heat could afford LeBron James. So stranger things, right? But Connor McDavid going to be on to his sixth different coach in the time he has been in the NHL. And what's wild is you look at the guy who is up there with them in the conversation of the best player in the world, in Nathan McKinnon, and he's had Jared Bednar for that entire time. One coach. And the reason for that, because the Avs have gotten so much other stuff right where Edmonton hasn't. And I feel for Edmonton. I think they're trying. They're just getting it wrong over and over and over again. And I don't know that changing the coach is going to fix what ails them. But that's the word on the street, is that Connor McDavid is going to have a new head coach, as Kristen Knobloch may be on the way out the door. There was also some, if you wanted another reason to hate on the Vegas Golden Knights, here's one. So Vegas fired Bruce Cassidy. What relieved him of his duty. Edmonton came calling and said, we might be interested in Bruce Cassidy because he's still under contract, right? What do I call it? My contract has a non-compete, right? Bruce Cassidy probably has a non-compete clause in his contract where the team has to allow him to go somewhere else and coach. Well, Edmonton came reportedly knocking on the door of Vegas and said, hey, that head coach that you're not using anymore, we'd be interested in him. And what do you think Vegas said? No. No. You may not speak to Bruce Cassidy. Don't speak to him. Don't look at him. Now, I tend to like Vegas a little bit more than most people do around here. I found this out. I do kind of enjoy the way they run their organization. I don't like the stuff they did with Mark Stone. I don't. There are some things I don't like, but generally I'm not as anti Golden Knights as other people are. And this is another one of those times. It's so Vegas that they would be like, buzz off, Edmonton. You're not talking to Bruce Cassidy. But I actually don't hate it, and I'll tell you why. Bruce Cassidy going to the Edmonton Oilers would be could be a bit of a problem for Vegas. Because this isn't, they fired Cassidy because he's not any good. They fired Cassidy because he's the wrong voice for the moment, and John Tortorella could be that. And by the way, John Tortorella's got Vegas on the cusp of going to the Western Conference Final. If Bruce Cassidy were to go to Edmonton and actually fix them, which I don't know if he can, but there's a chance that he could. How is that smart on Vegas's part? To me, if I'm Vegas and the Toronto Maple Leafs, who, by the way, let go of Craig Berube today, we know that. If Toronto came calling to Vegas and said, hey, we would like to interview Bruce Cassidy for our head coaching position, if I'm Vegas, I say, you know what? Okay. And I know, you'd have to play him twice a year. You might meet him in a Stanley Cup final. You know what? Do right by your guy that won you a Stanley Cup. Like Bruce Cassidy brought Vegas a Stanley Cup. If Toronto comes calling, cool. Edmonton, in your division, with the best player in the world on that team, no, I'm not doing it. Not if it's in the contract that I don't have to. So I'll defend Vegas a little bit on that. But it looks like Bruce Cassidy will not become Connor McDavid's next head coach. And we'll see who might be. Speaking of the Toronto job, before we take a break, Nolan Pratt reportedly up for that, Avs assistant, up for that job. Notice Dave Haxtell not up for the Toronto job. Found that interesting. 719 24/7-1313. Tonight we are focused on hockey, as we should be. Tomorrow night, maybe if the Avs win, we will shift our focus around here to the NFL schedule release. We already know that the Broncos will be opening their season in Kansas City against the Chiefs. We now reportedly, allegedly know what the first NFL game of the entire season will be. Tell you what that report is next on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. I was just informed, and my eyes can inform me of this. Um, if you want to come in and watch the Avs game here at the Brass Tap, you need to do it now. Just telling you. Maybe you're listening at work, deciding, do I leave right now? Or maybe you're out on the road. I'm not advising you to do anything that is untoward or against the law. I'm just saying, don't lollygag. This place is filling up, and I think reinforcements are on the way. So, and I understand why. It's a great place, great spot. And I will be out of the way. Right now, I'm in front of the big TV. I will not be that way when the game starts. So that might be also a good reason to watch the game here at the Brass Tap. I'm kidding. It was great to have for the Brass Tap to have us out. Troy and his staff are amazing, and I look forward to many, many more times that we will be here at the Brass Tap. Couple of things I want to get to before Avs and Wild at the top of the hour on Extra Sports 1300. So tomorrow is a special day for many football fans because tomorrow the NFL schedule is released. And certainly we will dedicate a good portion of tomorrow's show. Probably the rest of the show that isn't dedicated to Game 5 will be dedicated to the NFL schedule. But I believe that this day has jumped the shark. I believe the part of what made schedule release day fun was the teams getting in on the act with all these very creative ways to be able to do it. And I will tell you the team that has ruined it for almost everybody. And it is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are teasing on social media that they are going to do different kinds of sourdough bread that coincide with something of note about their opponent. They had a poorly photoshopped, and I got to give them credit this, no AI, so good for the Chiefs on that. But they just put pictures of ribs inside of sourdough bread. I hope this isn't the case, but if the Kansas City Chiefs, who have never been good at these schedule release things to begin with, if they do that tomorrow because this is a Taylor Swift thing, then we're done. And by the way, Broncos aren't that much better at it either. So what I propose here is something very simple. Moving forward, the only teams that are allowed to do schedule releases for the whole league are actually, no. You know what? Because they shouldn't help out the other team. There are two teams left that are allowed that have a lifetime exemption. They are the LA Chargers and the Tennessee Titans. They have been given a lifetime exemption. They are always welcome back to NFL schedule release day. Everyone else can kick rocks and just put out a PDF of your team schedule and let us talk about it that way. The reason why the Chargers and the Titans have the lifetime exemption is because the Titans are the most ripped off schedule release video in the history of sports social media. When they went to Broadway, and I didn't realize, I kind of thought that people in Nashville cared about football, but they found some of the most, people had no idea. And it was like that old Jay Leno jaywalking segment. You might be too young for that, but where you ask people things and you marvel at how ignorant they are. The group of people that the Tennessee Titans interviewed, showing them the logos of the teams they would play that year, was comedic gold. And so much so, it has been ripped off by so many teams, and imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. The Titans can do whatever they want. They released that video with the bachelorette party going Cowboys, 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 and it was the Colts. And the people, other people that were like the Boston Bobcats, and it's the Bengals. Like, it was just the most, you had no idea what they were saying. And in fact, there was one where a woman said that doesn't exist, and it was the Jaguars. That video is the GOAT of schedule release videos. So the Tennessee Titans, you are free to do whatever you want tomorrow. Even if it's not good, you have earned a lifetime exemption. You are Tiger Woods being invited back to Augusta every year, no matter how bad your game is and how broken down you are always welcome back. I will always look and see what the Tennessee Titans are doing. There is one other team that has been granted my lifetime exemption from my new rule that I am done with schedule release videos, and it is the LA Chargers. The reason is because, one, they are my son's favorite team and social media account because they do the anime, which is very creative, and I thought looks awesome. But here's more the reason why the LA Chargers are allowed to put out a schedule release video tomorrow. The LA Chargers will, one of these weeks, play the New England Patriots. And if you know anything about what the Chargers do, the Chargers tend to poke a little bit at their opponent. And they have been quite savage in that in years past. Because certainly I know this, the Chiefs always come up on the Chargers schedule, and there is always something to be mocked or to be needled about when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes? Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, different things, but still, you get my point. They're ripe for parody. I cannot wait until the Los Angeles Chargers do what they're going to do to announce what week they are playing the New England Patriots. I think it's going to be Titanic themed. That is my guess. But it is going to be hysterical, and I can't wait. And don't get me wrong, there will be other teams that are like, should we do the variable Rossini thing? And my answer to them is no, do not do that because you're not as good at it. Allow the Chargers to do their thing and give props where they are due. So the Titans, do whatever you want. Chargers, please do not miss with the variable Rossini stuff. I have the utmost confidence in both of you. Everyone else, just sit this one out. The Broncos put out a tease, which is Shannon Sharp, and I cannot tell you how much I will not be watching that video. I do not want basically Shannon Sharp's podcast announcing the Broncos schedule. And I know what you're saying, Ryan, you're not the target demo. You are correct, but I am also paid to follow that football team, and their schedule release is one of the things I have to follow. I don't want Shannon Sharp to be a part of it, but apparently he's going to be, and I bet you it will be terrible because the Broncos, just like the Kansas City Chiefs, can't say that I'm not being fair here. They are both very bad at this. And the fact that they're in the same division as the Chargers just makes it worse because they're not nearly as good as the Chargers at this. So we'll see what comes about. We'll look through. We'll have some fun. And yes, I will watch the Broncos schedule release video. I guess that's more of a Friday thing, though, isn't it? Because the schedule is not supposed to come out till 6 o'clock tomorrow night. But you get my point. When the schedule comes out, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the videos and go from there. Now, we already know that the Broncos will be playing in Kansas City week 1 on Monday night. And just for the record, again, I think that game should be in Denver. But I'm glad that those two teams that's a great matchup for week 1. Locale, I could see why some Broncos fans are frustrated, but it's a great matchup. It's the matchup it should be. Chiefs, Broncos. We also know that this is where we can clasp our hands together in unity. I believe both the Broncos and the Chiefs have been marked safe from international games. That schedule came out, and it has gotten to the point that I am the thing that I care about most is making sure that my team, or in the Broncos case, the team that I cover, is not playing international. That's the thing I hope more than the great first week matchup. Where's the bye week? It's become, is my team avoiding an international game? And do I have to wake up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday to watch the Denver Broncos play the New York freaking Jets? And the answer is no, I don't. And I could not be more thrilled. No Broncos, no Chiefs on the international game. I have no reason to watch any of these games, and it makes me very happy. I can't speak for my friend here. The Steelers did get one, didn't they? My T's and P's. I hate the international slate, except there's one exception. Are the Steelers going to New Mexico? To Mexico? No. France? Yeah, not great. The Mexico City game is okay. Mexico City's fine. Mexico City, I'm not including in this. I'm talking France. I'm talking Berlin. I'm talking London. I don't like any of those things. Not that I don't like those cities. I don't like the fact that the NFL is outsourcing some games to that. So if they must do that, just make sure it's not a game I care about. Mexico City, which could be interesting because at least one of the teams that have played in Mexico City in years past have trained at the Air Force Academy. I practiced there. I've been out there for the Rams. Well, the Rams, we weren't out at the academy. We met Sean McVay at the Broadmoor. Ooh. But I covered the Rams when they were here, covered the Chargers when they were here, and covered the Patriots. And not bragging, 2 feet away from Tom Brady is where I stood. I'm not saying that through osmosis or through proximity that I have inherited some of his traits, but I'm also not saying that. So the Mexico City matchup is interesting because one of those two teams might be here in Colorado Springs leading up to that game. Now, it's the Vikings and Niners, I believe, are playing in Mexico City. So Kyler Murray might be hanging out among us coming up in a few months. But no international games for the Broncos. So wipe the sweat off of your brow. Great first matchup, for week 1 matchup with Kansas City. But here's the thing. If the Broncos and Chiefs are playing Monday night, who is playing on Thursday? Well, one of the teams, it's obviously the Seattle Seahawks, as they should, open the NFL season at home, raising a banner in front of the 12s, all of that kind of stuff. And they will be playing the New England Patriots. So how about that to start the season? And that's why I've wanted rematches with the 49ers and the Eagles. I've wanted the Chiefs to have a Super Bowl rematch for week 1, and I haven't gotten it nearly enough. This is awesome. Seattle and New England, with whoever's going to be coaching the New England Patriots by week 1, matching up in the opener. That's a great first game. Jordan Schultz is reporting that is the opening game. So that's awesome. So no Broncos on the international slate. Seahawks, Patriots to open the season, and Broncos, Chiefs to close out week 1 on Monday night. Early returns from the NFL schedule leaks are good. Very good stuff. So we'll see what other leaks come about tomorrow, and then we'll certainly get more into it on Friday when we know for a fact the order of operations for the Denver Broncos this season. Want to this from the 719. This prediction, I predict that if the Avs lose, it's because you two ain't growing your playoff beard. I know who that is. And I will just say that I shaved my beard after the Avalanche lost. So I think I'm okay here. And Ray just said he can't grow a beard physically. So there's that. No, Ray's a Nuggets fan. Nuggets are done. He shaves his beard. Whoever sent that text, I thank you. And I thank you for being a part of the show, a bigger part of the show than just that one outstanding text to close out things. Again, my prediction, Nathan McKinnon, you will go, wow, the Avalanche have the best player in the world. And then you will also say, wow, his face doesn't even look that bad after taking a puck to it the other night. Nathan McKinnon shows why he is arguably the best player in the world, certainly the best player in this series. He shows it tonight with a very intentional 200-foot two-way game. And the Avs win Game 5, and they get ready for Vegas, Anaheim, whoever may end up winning that series. So there's my prediction. I don't think I've taken the Wild once in this series, so why change now? So that's my prediction. Avs winning it tonight. Make sure this is the last time I'm going to remind you or reach out to you about this. Brass Tap, get out here. Bass Pro Drive, the place is filling up. Everyone's getting ready to watch the game on the big screen that is right behind me. Not big screen isn't doing you justice. It's 4 big screens together in one. That is a giant screen watching the Avs and Wild. So get out here. I want to thank Troy and the folks here at the Brass Tap for their hospitality. Looking forward to being out here more and more as we move along. And my thanks also to Ray Dominguez, who is producing on site for me, and just to let everybody in on it because he deserves the praise. Andrew Scorgi back at the Extra Sports 1300 studios, blaming me for shaving my playoff beard, but also doing a great job. Thanks, Scorgi. Talk tomorrow.